All right, one of our next steps if we want to drive this thing is to get some semblance of brake and clutch working. So here's our pedal box. Someone's been in here. All the rubber boots are off. Massive corrosion. You got your reservoir lines in the back. They come from this combined reservoir. It's connected there. And then you got your clevis pins, I guess for lack of a better term. The windshield wiper motor is just totally in the way for all of this. So we're going to try to take this stuff out so we can rebuild it on the bench and see what we get. So that's the plan. I think the whole pedal box comes out, but again, the wiper motor's in the way. So we're going to start taking some stuff apart and see what we get. All right, after a lot of rusty fasteners, we've got the pedal box out. We got the hydraulic lines out. We're going to have to replace all these hydraulic lines. They're toast. I wasn't going to keep them anyway. So that's it out. It would be easier, I think, to get the washer motor out. There are two fasteners here. I think they're threaded into captive nuts. This one is turning. That one, I think, twisted the captive nut off. And you have to get to that from under the fender, so that will be another day. But we got them out. We also got the pedal assembly out from under the car. So we're gonna clean that up, clean both of those up off the car, and have them painted up and cleaned up and rebuilt and ready to go. Here are our two assemblies. This is our hydraulic box assembly, clutch and brake. Somebody had been in here, the boots were off. So we tried to disassemble a little on the car. I took the bracket off of here. It wasn't gonna happen. This whole thing really is meant to go as a assembly and then you bolt it into the car. So we will disassemble this on the bench and do it. And then the pedals do pivot, they do swing, they're not seized, despite all the rust that you see. So this again will also be completely stripped down, sandblasted and painted on the bench. So that's next project. Okay, next step, now that we've got our pedal box out and our assembly and we're cleaning all that up, we have got to get our brakes apart. So we've got the car, we moved the dollies inboard under the frame, taken the wheels off, and we are going to take these old calipers off and hoses. We're going to cut the hoses, and we're going to take the caliper, the hub off. You can see there's no dust cap. Lord knows what that bearing's like. These discs off, get the backer plate off, and we will get ready to rebuild all these brakes. So that's our next task at hand. Okay, we've got this caliper off. We just cut the hose up here, and the caliper's off. Working on the other side. If you look behind it, the dust plate, the dust cover, it lays on top. The caliper goes between the bracket and the dust cover. That's the dust cover. But you can't get it out until you get the rotor off. So we're gonna get the rotor off in a second. We've done a little wire brushing on this. Again, there was no dust cap here. We'll have to get one of those. And so the plan is to sandblast the dust cover, clean the discs, sandblast the hub, put new bearings, a new seal, turn the rotor as long as it's thick enough, and then put it all back together with new brake lines and new hoses, and see if we can get the brakes working. We'll replace all the brake lines. Yes, I know, it's super rusty. It is super rusty. We're just getting this thing running and driving first. That's what we're gonna see if we can do it. So passenger side here, we got the dust cover off. Gotta film it when you see it. If you don't have the right tool, use what you got. Looks like a 16 penny or a 12 penny framing nail. Just got drove in there, cut off, and bent a little bit. I guess that'll work. I assume that the hole in the stub axle is big enough for a nail like that, or maybe they drilled it bigger. I don't know, but we're gonna get it out of there. All right, there you go. I think it's maybe a 12 penny. I checked on the other side. This nail does fit in the stub axle, so the original hole is big enough. This is a snug fit, so it's about as big as you can get. So I guess in that sense, it's plenty secure. I think a cotter pin's kind of all you need, but there you go. All right, passenger side, we're pulled apart. Here's our half shaft, our little axle shaft. This is all sort of wobbled up. I don't know, it's all ground down. That's pretty bad. That's not gonna work. That has a lot of damage. So I think what we're gonna do, well, we're gonna need a new half shaft, clearly. I mean, I suppose I could turn this down and put a sleeve on it or something like that. That seems like a lot of work. I may have one with parts, I'm not sure. What I'm gonna do for now is put it together with the old bearings just to see if I can get it to run. I know I'll need bearings. I'm not gonna drive it but anywhere in the yard. So that's that. This side's pulled apart. We still have to do the brake PDWA or PWDA or whatever. We have to pull that apart, but we'll do that when we do all the brake lines. So this is pulled apart. All right, now we're working on rear brakes. We got the screws came out. Did pound it on the end of a hammer while we turned the flats of the screwdriver with a wrench. They came out. There's the drum. It's a little wet. I think we sprayed WD-40 or Croil or something inside this drum to free this brake up. It's pretty wet in here. Interestingly, when we took the drum off, the shoes came right out. Now, it could have been the liquid we sprayed in there, or the adhesive delaminated over time. Lord knows what the stopping power of this thing was. But we're gonna get in here and we're gonna blow all this stuff out, and then we're gonna get the shoes off and all the hardware off, get the wheel cylinders and adjusters out so we can clean them up. We'll go from there. The drums are both at this stage. The drums are out, off. The wheel cylinders are off. The handbrake lever is off to just we undid the clevis pin. We have the adjuster out, and then we sort of lightly wire brushed this. We'll do a little bit heavier wire brushing, but we're gonna rebuild all the hydraulics. We'll replace all the brake lines. We'll sandblast the drums, turn the drums lightly, and then get this back together. So this is looking pretty good so far. All right, here's our calipers off the car. They've seen better days. So we've got the, I guess this is maybe an anti-rattle or some kind of spring plate rusted away here on this one. We've got our very rusty bleeder up here, and it's broken off up here, so who knows what the condition of these brakes were the last time. The boots are still a little bit flexible. There's some meat still left on them. All I've done is we just pivoted them off the discs, and then I used an air compressor and I blew all the cobwebs and stuff off them. So this is the way they look. So we are going to take the pads and the hardware off. Then we're going to throw them with the pistons still in them and the hoses still in them. We're going to throw them in the sandblaster and sandblast them so we don't sandblast any of the sensitive parts. And we'll get them sandblasted clean, and then we will talk about disassembly, splitting them in half, getting them painted and the like. So there we go. All right, sorry for the noise of the air compressor, but here you go, old British cars. Both hardware bolts sheared right off. Initial give sheared right off. So we're gonna sandblast this up first, then we'll do a welded nut trick, see if we get it from there. We'll get this caliper hot if we have to. We'll get it sandblasted first. Interestingly, this is the one where the bleeder is still intact. I'm not gonna say good. I'm expecting it to shear off as well, so we'll get them sandblasted up. Okay, now we've got a caliper in the vise, and you can see the two pistons. As I said, the boots still got some rubber flex to it. I've left the boots on. They're old and rotten. I've never tried to crack this bleeder open. This is the one that has an intact bleeder. I have my grease nipple, 7/16 24. We are going to thread this on directly onto the caliper. I have not tried to move these at all. I have not even tried to put air in this. And I guess technically I could potentially try to move them with air, compressed air down the spout. But I'm going to try with the grease, and we're going to see what we get. So grease, quick release on there. I am thinking this should move pretty easily. Pumping. There, it's moving. You can see this one clearly moving. All right, so now what I need to do is put a board in here to keep that one from going any further. So let's get a board in there. Okay, so the rotor would go here, and the rotor is a 1/2 inch thick. The boards I have, all the boards I have are 3/4 of an inch thick. So I have a C-clamp, and I can put a C-clamp in here. I've got a little tiny piece of wood that I've used for various things. So I'm going to put that across the piston, and I'm going to put this in. I'm actually going to see if I can squeeze the piston in with the C-clamp. I don't know. If I do, it should shift the grease over to the other side and send this piston out. I don't know that I have enough strength in that wood to do this, but we are going to try to set it up just like I did and show you. I think I'm going to deform that wood again. Yep, I just broke the wood. So what I need really is a piece of metal across there. Well, we can do that. We can do it. How about that? Take a open-end wrench. Can I do that? Why not? Open-end wrench right on there. All right, you shout if that starts coming out. I sure don't see it moving. Pretty, I think I've spread the C-clamp out, in fact. So this piston is pretty stuck. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a better visual. Let's take the rubber boot off, or however much of it we can. Now you can see the edge of that piston. It's got some pretty good corrosion. I am spreading this C-clamp. That is what I am doing. So I would say I need a bigger C-clamp. I have two smaller C-clamps that maybe I could grab. Okay, so what I did right now is I've got two C-clamps to hold that piston in because I don't want it to come out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape out the rest of the rubber boot on this side that's stuck and try to scrape as much of this rust out of here as I can. Because that may be that is what's holding us clearly. So let me scrape on that and clean that up as much as I can, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, now you can see I've torn the boot out. I've scraped at it with a pick around this edge, all the way around, and I've got it clear all the way around. You can see my piston's got all kinds of pitting on it. That's not good. Anyway, I've used a Dremel, and I've cleaned up what I can reach with the Dremel on this side And the same thing on this side. You can see the pistons like wafer thin here. So I think even when I get these out, I got to get new pistons. I'm assuming and I'm hoping they sell those. You can kind of see what I'm dealing with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Croil around here and let that sit. Probably overnight. We'll see. Just Croil. And I'm going to be pretty liberal with it. Go around the other side. I'm going to fill that whole groove with it and let it soak overnight. And we will come back and see. It may be that I've got enough pressure, this will release and go. I don't think so. It may be I've released enough rust that I pump some grease in and it will release. But for now, we're going to let it sit and let that tool work on the rust. Okay, here we are next day. You can see all of that Croil is gone. I'm assuming that it's soaked in. I don't think it really evaporates. So I still want to try to press this plunger out. I don't think this one has moved. And I want to try to squeeze that one. So I'm going to try to see what I can do. Okay, so here we are. What I've done is I've cut a piece of wood. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. It's standard in the US. I've had to shave it to about a 1/2 inch thick at the top and the bottom. And I've cut it on angles to replicate the shape of the rotor. And now it drops in to the caliper and fits pretty snugly in the groove at the top and the groove at the bottom. And if I flip it over, you can see it's actually captured here and here. So this, I think, with this much wood is going to be strong enough that if I start pumping, it's going to hold this piston in and the other piston should move. So that's my current logic. And I am going to clamp this in the vise for you guys to see. I'll set you back up. So that's it. All right, I've repositioned you. So I've got this in place. I'm going to hook the grease gun up here, and we're going to hope it should press out a little bit here until it bears against the wood, and hopefully then we can make more progress on the other side. So here we go. That's grease nipple attached, and we are gonna stroke, stroke, stroke. So I'm bearing on this. There's no more play. You probably saw that move. Definitely moving. There you go. See the piston moving right here? Look at that. We should have moved out well past the corrosion. But look at all that corrosion on there. But that's moved out enough. So now I can probably put some pliers on it and move it. But man, that's a heck of a lot of corrosion on there. So at this point, I'm going to stop with the grease. What I'm going to do is see if I can get this block of wood out of here. I'm going to pry here. Pry here. Let's see if we can loosen up this block of wood. All right, that's out. Now you can see how far the piston came, and you can start to see no corrosion. You can start to see clear piston, and it's starting to pry out just like this with a screwdriver, sort of massaging it out. Now I might have suction. Let's do two things so we can see better. Let's take the boot off of this side. so you can see better. That's enough. Now, I think I should take the grease nipple off up here, because that is going to prevent me from pulling the pistons out, because it's going to hold sort of a vacuum, I think, right? So this is 7/16 on this nipple, on this grease nipple. So all right, little burst of grease came out with it, little pop of grease. So it was under pressure. Now what I want to do is see if I can pry these pistons out or grab them. Locks aren't big enough. Let's grab just the edge of it. All right, so I wiggle. All right. There it is. Now what we got running out is all the brake fluid. That's our piston. You can see that ring of corrosion. That is, I think, there is no way I would be able to clean that up. That's some pretty tough surface corrosion. We will probably throw it in the tumbler, tumble it so you guys can see what it'll look like. Back in here is some grease. Let me do a couple of things. Let me pull more of this boot out. Need to do a little scraping to get that boot out of there. Tell you what, I'm going to work on getting this piston out before I do anything else. So that's turning. You can see I got a little rotation on it. So rotation, I think, is very good. Now, since I know I'm going to replace these, I think I can probably try to get in this groove and tap on them. See if I can send them out. That is definitely moving it out a little. That moved it a lot. Back to here. Down to here. See if I can get on the back side. That moved a bunch, I'm sure you saw. There you go, out it comes. So that's grease that you can see on it. Again, this one, really heavy corrosion. Interesting corrosion down near the bottom, although that might just be dirt from the seal. But we'll probably throw these in the tumbler so we can see how they tumble up and see how they clean to see what that kind of looks like. But I don't see any way these are salvageable. The chrome is gone. In fact, I can feel the chrome surface is completely gone where the rust starts. So, all right, I thought I'd show you some close-ups of the pistons. They both have some pretty horrendous scoring. Let's see if I can show you some of that. You can see the rust build up. I mean, that is going to be not, that's obviously where I grabbed it with the pliers, so that's not ideal. But I think that, I mean, there, look, that's serious corrosion and pitting, and this is the this is the polished surface. This is that chrome surface. Let's look at the other one. The other one is smoother. See where I grabbed it with the pliers, but there is just no way these are reusable. So Moss sells replacements. They sell regular steel, and they also sell I think stainless steel for like double the money, and I just don't know how much I should invest in this. I mean, what's the real difference? They're $15 versus $30. So we're talking for 4 of them, an extra $60. So maybe I will go stainless steel, extra $60, peace of mind, have it, and it's done. But these are not going back in, that's for sure. All right, so we've got it in the vise. We've got 4 bolts to undo. This one, it looks like the bleeder's in the way, and I am fairly sure that bleeder is going to break off if I try to twist it. It's a very tall bleeder. I think that that bleeder needs a lot of heat. So we are going to do that. We are going to that's a little coil on it. That turned out of there. That's what heat does for you. That turned right out of there. It's hot, but it's right out. There we go. It's out. I've got a 9/16 6-point. This is a 1/4 inch drive because I don't want to overdo it. Well, let's see. That broke it. That broke it free. It is turning. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to put some coil around under the head so it runs down the threads. Now we're going to tighten it. Now that that coil's gotten down there, we're going to give it a little tighten. Then we're going to loosen it again. Easier. That's our bolt. Coil went down, run down. That's bigger. So let's go over to this one since it's a 9/16. That is not moving. Now there's no heat on this one. This one's bigger. 5/8. Now the only way I've got 5/8 is with a 3/8 drive, and it's a 12-point, which I don't like, but we're going to use it. Oh, that turned right away. All right, that's really moving easy. I mean, I'm hand threading that. Okay, not worried about that. Let's move on to this one. Same thing. Easy peasy. I'm not hand threading it, but man, it's not taking much. Yeah, I can turn it by hand. Okay, so let's get a 9/16 for here. So I've got it. We'll put it here. Got more pull. And it broke, cracked free. Shouldn't use the word broke, but it cracked free. But this one's not turning as nicely. So we're going to do that same coil trick. Coil here, let it soak in all the way down. Now we're going to tighten it. Now we're going to loosen. There's our 9/16 fine thread. Let's get our last couple out. Here. not a very big shoulder. There we go. So that's our 4 bolts. 2 different sizes. Now this caliper will come in 2. So we have 2 halves. So here you can see the inside and how clean it is. And what we should have in there is there should be a rubber seal right here. So we have what's left of the rubber boot. Then we've got a lip, and then we've got the seal for the caliper. There it is. So there's our nasty seal. That's what we're going to get as part of the rebuild kit. We have a lot of rubber from this boot to get out of here now that we can get to it. And we're going to sandblast this up. Now, the other thing we have is this is the passage that connects the 2 halves of the caliper. Right here we have the hydraulic line in where I put the grease nipple, and that's the bleed valve. Hydraulic fluid goes through, and then it goes through a passage right up here, and then it goes to the other side. And here is the other half of the caliper. Let me bring it up. And on this half of the caliper, we have an O-ring or a flat washer. Now these, I am told, don't come in the kit, and you have to buy them separately. So that's it. And when you buy them, they tell you the size. And I'm just going to show you. This is 5.5. So you can see it, 5.5, almost exactly. And the inside is about 2 1/4, 2.25, 2.3, something like that. And the thickness of this one is 0.6. 0.6 is our thickness. So that's your flat washer size for these calipers. So on this one, I have a lot of rubber boot left to deal with. A lot of, it's sort of rusty, crusty in there. But below the rubber boot, again, there's that seal. So the seal keeps the corrosion out of the caliper. So really you just have outside it. So I'm going to scrape all this rubber boot off. I'm going to tape the inside of this area, and I'm going to sandblast the whole thing. I'm going to tape the mating surfaces. I'm going to sandblast this after I get it all degreased. And then I will paint them up, and they will hopefully look like new. This is the style caliper that retains the brake shoes from the back with spring clips. So I have a broken fastener here and a broken fastener there. I'm going to drill these. I could do a welded nut trick. I don't have a welder in the location I'm at now. I have a welder at my other shop. I'm going to try to drill these and use an extractor. I may regret that, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a lot of heat first, but I'm going to do all my scraping and degreasing, and then I'll tackle these 2 broken fasteners, and those I'm just going to get generic, maybe stainless steel fasteners. All right. Did a little bit of cleanup. I want to show you. So it's got the lip, very thin lip, like the piston had. So it's a very thin lip on this nasty old piston, and it has basically the same lip around the caliper. So I've scraped it all out really well, and I've sort of taken my Dremel rotary wire wheel and wire wheeled that. Did it on both of them. So they look really good, I think. I mean, yes, there's corrosion around that lip. It's not going to look like brand new, but this is going to sandblast up and paint really, really well. And these are definitely rebuildable, so I'm in good shape. Okay, so we're on the bench. We've got stuff taken apart. Here's our canister. Done a little bit of wire brushing. There's the bracket. Got the master cylinders off of it. Here is the top of the pedal box. The 2 pedals. We've got all the hardware sort of in a separate tray. We're going to throw this stuff in the tumbler and see how it tumbles and comes out. And then the master cylinders are here. We've got them apart. This one, I don't know whether this is clutch or brake. It came apart pretty well. You can see down in there, I think it's going to be rebuildable. And all of these parts are okay. Obviously, the 2 seals are toast. This one, the seals are really gone. They're so gummy. This seal just became a smear, this back seal. And the inside of this is not scored, but is all gummed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pistons and the hard parts and throw them in the tumbler as well. And we're going to tumble all of this, and we'll see how it all comes out. We're not going to tumble the little tiny washer. We're not going to tumble the plastic parts. We'll tumble it, and we'll see how it all comes out in the morning, and then we'll make a decision about what we're going to do with these. Okay, so we've got the slave cylinder for the Triumph here. And what we've done is we've threaded a grease nipple into where the hydraulic line goes. It's a 3/8 24 UNC threaded grease nipple. And we've hooked up a grease gun. There's our grease gun. Our plunger is in there, and it's way down in there. We've pushed it down. We've had it soaking with some Croil and for a week or more. And now we're going to pump some grease in. You can see the piston. I'm moving a little, sorry about that. But the piston is coming out. Getting air bubbles with it. I'm compressing a lot of air in there. But we are getting this slave cylinder piston out, aren't we? So we're over here squeezing the grease gun. That's it. That's it, right? It is all the way out. Now we've got the spring in there. There's the seal. There's the corrosion. It's full of grease. We can take that grease and load it back in the grease gun. Then we'd have dirty grease in there. Or we'll scoop it out and throw it away. And then we have, hopefully, we'll check the bores and we'll check the piston here. But hopefully we have a rebuildable slave cylinder. Okay. So now we have the wheel cylinders. So I threw these as they are into the tumbler. And this is how they come out. I ripped the boots off. I have tried to put these in a vise and squeeze them down in this vise, and they didn't really move. So I think they're pretty seized. But I have now put Croil around them and let them soak. So I'm going to put the grease nipple in the 3/8 24 UNF thread grease nipple that I have. I am threading that in. So that's now thread in, and it has a bleeder in, which is closed. And we are going to hook up our grease gun to this and pump this full of grease and see if we get anything going. So grease gun onto our nipple. Now you're not going to get a sense to see it that way. Let me move you. Hang on. All right, so now you're seeing it from the side. This is a slotted rear wheel cylinder for the TR3. The other one is solid. They are a mismatched set. I am probably going to replace these. They're very cheap to replace, but I am interested in seeing whether this grease gun, which is rated at 6,000 psi, will actually move that piston out. So that's what we're going to try, so I can see how that works. So I am going to squeeze, squeeze. Because I don't have grease. Oh, huh. I'm 100% wrong. I will show you. It's coming out the bottom. We got an enormous amount of grease out the bottom. All of it. Look at that. Well, I missed that. It was pumping, so it blew out the bottom cap on the wheel cylinder. Let's see what that's about. It felt like it was moving grease, and it was. It moved a lot, an awful lot, because it came out all around the perimeter. It basically dislodged that steel cap and had grease. Let's wipe that off. So let's wipe that off. So these wheel cylinders are made with a steel cap on the backside. This one has it too. That's what it looks like. That's sort of peened in place. You can kind of see a peen mark here and here. And it just oozed all that grease out around that cap like crazy. So I guess this would be seized in so badly that it actually deformed the metal and broke the backside. So I did that to see if it would pump out, and the answer is it didn't, because it failed the wheel cylinder. Now I'm planning to replace these two, so that's no good. All right, I can't resist. I'm a glutton for punishment. I went ahead and put the other wheel cylinder in. We know what happened with the first one. The grease came out the bottom. I've got the grease nipple on. I've got the grease gun on. We're going to try to see what happens with this one. Oh, look at that. So this one's moving. Easy, easy, easy. Right out. In fact, I bet I can wiggle it out with my hands. All right, disconnect the grease gun. Set that aside. Let's go ahead and grab this. There's corrosion on it. You get a pair of pliers. That's it. So that came out. Inside here is grease, as you would expect. I clean that off. That's what it looks like. That's the level of corrosion that I have. I don't think there's a spring in there. No, just grease. So that's the grease. I got to scoop the grease out. You can see it's dirty from liquid that was in there. That is now ready to be cleaned, and that came out super easy. So no seepage around this cap. So this one, theoretically, if I clean it and the bore looks good, I could rebuild it. I am going to get two matching wheel cylinders, two new ones, but I wanted to do this. I'm going to save my grease nipple. I'm going to save my bleeder, and I'll get two new wheel cylinders. They're pretty cheap, so I'm definitely going to do that. So I'll update you. So the bleeder, I tried to take it off, and it sheared off. I did not use any heat. I just did it cold. I tried to go back it out, move it in, back it out, move it in. It sort of I kind of felt like it was going to break, but it thought it could have been moving, but it snapped off. So totally garbage. I mean, I could easy out that, and but I'm going to get a new wheel cylinder, of new bleeders. That's going to be the plan.